it also. I've turned the recording on, so if anybody is going to ask, will you get a recording of the webinar? Absolutely, it'll be sent out. Should be tomorrow once the recording's complete, and we'll just send out the raw recording. So, just to introduce myself, I'm Richard from Weekdone. I just wanted to put the video on, say hi to everybody. I'm going to turn it off in a minute, basically so we have the full screen and no distractions there. So, hello everybody, and really to introduce what we're going to discuss today. Today is really all about managing those OKR processes. There's a lot of processes that we need to set up that drive the engagement and drive the OKRs. In a lot of cases, people think a lot about setting the OKRs, but maybe not so much about the processes to make them work. So what we're going to cover today is really an overview of the processes needed to make OKRs successful. And those really are team OKR meetings, and what are you trying to achieve in the meeting? Team members and check-ins, how does this dynamic of individuals and teams all relate to each other? Company-wide reviews, and what's expected of the leader and team manager when they're presenting a company-wide review of the OKRs, and an end of quarter review. So basically making sure we close out the quarter we've worked on and set the next quarter's OKRs. You can ask questions at any time. You can ask in the Q&A section of Zoom. We'll try and answer those live, but what we'll also do, we'll basically be looking at grouping questions or adding the questions to a sheet at the end, and we'll kind of cover them live in there as well. I want to kind of start with a big picture, and we're not going to touch on today about the setting of the OKRs much in this. We're really going to talk about the processes once we have our OKRs set. We're going to start with a weekly team OKR check-ins. How do we check in weekly with our OKRs in a team? How do we do a monthly OKR review? How do we do a retrospective on where we are? It could also be not just monthly, it could be mid-quarter. Some companies do 2 or 3 check-ins. And the end of quarter, which is partly about doing an end of month or end of quarter check-in, but it's also then about how do we carry some elements forward? How do we develop and start working on our next OKRs? I'm going to start with a team check-in, and really one of the first areas you're looking at when you're checking in with the OKRs as a team is, are we on or off progress? And what I mean by that is, typically we have around 13 weeks in a quarter. If we're at week 10, i.e. 77% of the time and 50% of progress, we'll often say, well, we're off track. There are different ways you could measure it. You could use the 33-33-33 principle with red, amber and green. But there are other ways you can measure it, and people do measure it. But keeping it simple and saying, are we on or off track? Are we progressing our OKRs at the pace to keep up with time? If we're not, if we're amber, we're behind, we need some urgency. What it means is we need to really think about the plans, the initiatives. What are we going to do to drive our OKRs forward? That is an exceptionally important element of the OKRs. As a team, we need to understand where we need to focus on our OKRs. When we're behind, we need to try and catch up. Catching up is all about executing on the plans and the initiatives to drive the outcome. Basically, what will we do as a team? Discuss it as a team, review it as a team, and come up with the right plans or initiatives to make sure you get the OKR back on track. The other side, where the OKR is on track, we maybe still need plans and initiatives to keep us on track, or we believe, here we are, 75% progress and 75% of the time. So we've still got, let's say, 3 weeks to go in the OKR period. We could still make more progress on it. We're probably a little bit more relaxed. We're doing well, but we would try to keep driving it forward. The big question is, are we improving over time? One of the things with OKRs, we have a whole quarter. We have all these weeks, but it moves very quickly. And we're really trying to make sure we drive things consistently. To drive those improvements consistently, we need that week-on-week progress. We need the plans, initiatives, the outputs to drive the OKRs forward. We need to do something. Now, this is a simplistic view. So we've got 3 completed plans, and that drove our progress from the week 22 to 28 in April and this week. However, it could well be that some plans we do or some parts of projects were completed, let's say, at the beginning of the quarter, 8th to 14th of April, but they take time to drive the key results forward, to drive the OKR forward. It's not always as simple. You execute on the plans and immediately that week you see the changes. However, if you don't set and basically execute on these outputs to drive the outcomes, it won't stay steady. If I set 8th to the 14th of April in this case, I execute on the plans and I wait 4 weeks for something to happen, we will have lost a lot of time, and usually it's very hard to recover unless it was a really excellent thing you did. The other thing you're thinking about is completing the right outputs to drive the outcomes. Now, below here we said Jane set up a promotion page and push email campaign for webinar 1. That maybe drove something forward, or maybe it didn't work. It's not just about completing the right plans. That is the point of having good key results. Completing the right outputs drives the outcomes, and that's what you're looking for every week. Did we make the progress? Did we have the right plan set? Did it drive the OKRs forward? Equally coming to next week, so we need to set, what are we going to do for next week? We need to set the outputs that will drive the OKRs forward. What is it we're going to accomplish in the coming week that's going to keep this OKR moving forward? And a lot of that is about individuals. This weekly check-in is about the team and individuals. Usually the individuals are the ones that execute the plans. A person drives a plan forward. Within weekly check-ins, you've got plans, progress, problems, and that is a great way to basically say, right, this is what I plan to do, and this is what I got done. If I have a problem, I communicate it. But we also track and measure the lessons learned. So we understand what worked, what didn't. The plans can be set by individuals before the meeting, or you could discuss it during the meeting. What we've seen a lot of is early stage teams learning OKRs will often discuss it in the meeting. It's a little bit longer, but it helps everybody get engaged and understand the plan setting to drive the OKRs forward. When teams and companies become a little more mature, often what happens, the individuals are setting what are they going to do for the coming week before the meeting. But in either case, we're still as a team agreeing the priorities based on their impact and commitments really to the OKR. So whether we set it before and we review in that weekly meeting and say, have we set the right plans? Do we believe these plans are going to drive our OKRs forward? We can discuss it, we can review it, we'll make sure we agree, and off we go to execution. It works either way around, but really understanding that these execution elements will drive the OKRs forward. It's very much, I'm sure many of you have heard of the plan, do, check, act. If you think about it with OKRs, it's a direct fit. Plan, do, execute on the plans, check OKR's progress. Did it move us? And then what's the next actions? And off we go again. So basically, it's almost exactly what we're doing. We're trying to make sure we loop round into doing something. Did it drive the OKRs forward? Yes or no? How are we going to, what actions come out of that? Plan again, do. And at the end, we should have driven our OKRs forward. This weekly review is important. It's also about getting the whole team contributing to the ideas to improve. One of the things we need to do is make sure that it's not just the people that are improving OKRs, but it's actually the whole team. For example, we might have a sales team and we have some field sales engineers, and they aren't going to be working on the improvements, but what they are going to be doing is giving probably good feedback on the ways things could be improved, processes could be improved, things that take time, that take them away from the sales process could be improved. Working as a whole team and thinking about all the areas to improve to make us more efficient means getting the whole team to contribute to those good ideas. I think one thing is it should make it fun and challenging and accountable. A lot of that comes down to writing good OKRs. The OKRs shouldn't be telling people what to do. They're telling you the outcomes we want to achieve, what success looks like. And it generates this thought within people and within discussions in the team on how are we going to achieve the OKRs. And that shouldn't be overlapping with sort of any other areas. It really should be something that's getting people to think about how to improve the business. And usually people find that fun. OKR check-ins could involve several teams. Certainly at Weekdone, we actually do sort of a weekly check-in in the teams, but we actually do a sales, marketing, product management check-in every other week with our OKRs, and we share what we're working on and what's worked and what hasn't with all the teams, the 3 teams there. It's like a mini company-wide one. But what we found is it can really help to align the teams. I think, we've used OKRs obviously for a long time, but I think the thing is, it really helped us get much closer alignment between the teams and really understand each other's problems, issues, and what was being worked on. And usually a lot of times there's a lot of crossover between what product needs to do and how is it going to affect sales or marketing. Generally, the OKR check-in should just take 15 minutes. What have we got set up? Do we believe they're the right things? Let's move on. Are we on or off track? What are we going to, get done, or who's going to do what? It shouldn't be a super long, complicated process. It should be relatively light and included in regular weekly team meetings. That's kind of the end of the team element. And then the team element is really, really important. OKRs tend to live or die with the teams. The teams drive the changes in the organization. But the next one I want to talk about is this monthly, or, I did say mid-quarter earlier. It can be monthly, i.e. we do 3 company-wide retrospectives or check-ins or reviews in the quarter. It can be we do them after 6-7 weeks. So we do the first one in roughly the middle of the quarter, and then we do a final end of quarter. Up to you. What's important though is that we do this, that we get everybody sharing and updating everybody else in the company on their OKRs. That means from leadership all the way down. It's really about making sure we truly are staying aligned. Sharing the learnings and insights with everybody is a great way of making sure everybody understands what every team is driving forward on improvements on their OKRs, and it really helps that alignment. Secondly, it also improves accountability. So if we have to present to everybody in the company every 4 weeks or every 6 weeks, we really need to make sure we move our OKRs forward. We need to make sure we set good OKRs. We are going to be accountable to every other team in the company, and they're accountable to us. The leadership is accountable for setting good company level objectives as well. The process of setting OKRs is often seen as one that takes multiple quarters to get good at. For those of you that read Measure What Matters, Sergey Brin, I think it was, wrote a preface, and he said it took them at Google 3 quarters to get good at writing OKRs. And he aligned it with, it's like training a muscle. It's not that you read and learn something and just by magic it happens. I think one of the best ways to get everybody to learn is in that company-wide retrospective, people share their stories and their learnings and their lessons on the OKR process. You know, get to learn quickly. Where one company has learned, a team has learned something, you can learn quickly there. If we think about the company level, I mean, the first step is the leadership or the C-suite or the leadership team is really about saying, right, okay, you know, as a C-level or CEO, we set the objectives. You know, are they the right ones? Did they work? How is the OKR process working for us as leaders? Why did we come up with these? Were the C-level objectives good? And what does that really mean? It probably means, are they driving real change? As a leader, you probably set them because maybe we had some KPIs that we needed to drag back up to be at a level we needed. Maybe we had some high growth KPIs where we needed to really change and drive the business forward. Or we were trying to drive the strategy of the business and move us forward to our strategic direction that we're looking for over the next 1, 2, 3 years, whatever it may be. But really understanding as a leader, were they the right things? Did we set them right? Are they having an impact? And sharing some of that information with everybody else below. At a team level, it's really about each team presenting the progress and learnings on their OKR. So progress, are we on the right track? What were the learning and insights? There's often huge learning and insights and things we will uncover using OKRs. OKRs are not just about the numbers. It's not that we were green and 42% and we got 100% of OKRs. Usually one of the biggest things that comes out of OKRs is we learn and we understand much better areas of our business. What has worked and what hasn't? In a lot of cases, we're going to work on plans or initiatives or projects that drive the OKRs forward. Some of them will work, some of them won't. And sharing the good and the bad is often a great way to help others learn. You know, it might also allow other people to give feedback or comments on ways it maybe could done better or how they've seen it done in the past. Creating that openness on what we learned, what worked, what didn't on our OKRs. Very similarly on the OKR process learnings and insight. You know, what's working for us? What have we learned on the OKR process? Not our OKRs, but how to develop OKRs. One thing that came up and we've done in our last company-wide review was basically something we discussed about measures and averaging for KRs. You know, it was very evident. It was easy to say this is the KR, but some KRs are more volatile or they have other factors, seasonality that drive them. And really, we were all learning a little bit more about how could we better average and where do we need to average and what's the right average. And we had a number of discussions on that to really make sure we all understood the problem and we really improved or will improve our KRs and the thoughts about the measures and the averaging and what we need to do to make them really good, clear indicators. This company-wide review is all about transparency, sharing everything. It should be generating the alignment across the teams. You know, it's very easy to understand what other teams are doing. It might be that things I do could impact them, good or bad, and making sure we actually aligned and we understand where we're all going. what do us all learn for the company and team levels, the CEO and team managers and team members? What do we really understand about the goal setting process and tracking process? There's a lot to learn. As I said before, a lot of companies take 2, 3, 4 quarters to get good at writing OKRs. If you can share those learnings and you can learn faster, you'll get more benefits. It's also about the issues and the roadblocks, sharing those. There could be other people that can help me. I or my team could help others, or other people maybe have experienced the same problems that you're facing. Again, basically making it transparent and allowing people to see what the problem is. I think at the end, you're trying to make sure you speed up the OKR process from all the learnings. You're trying to make the process lighter, more effective, better each time you set the quarterly OKRs. I want to come on to the end of quarter. And in a way, the end of quarter is the same. It's the company-wide review. However, often you try to do this 1-2 weeks before the end of the quarter. And the reason being, you're trying to reflect also now on sort of a full quarter, or a full quarter minus 2 weeks of what worked, what hasn't. Really, so we can start to think about the next OKRs. So we need to get the company and team level learnings, the insights from the current OKRs. What are we going to carry over? There may be some OKRs we want to carry over. That might mean similar or very similar objective. It might mean we change some KRs. Maybe we had an objective and we had the wrong KRs, or we tried things but it didn't move, but we got some ideas and we believe we could move it to the next quarter, or again, target it with different KRs. It might be that we understand, hey, we finished this, we've improved this area, let's move on to what's next. So really that process is all about deciding what do we carry over and then what's next. What's next usually is coming from the top level, the strategy at the company level, and how do we set objectives that will take us in that strategic direction, or a strategic adjustment. You may learn that, hey, there's a great new market, or we've uncovered something where our product fits another market. Is that something we want to go after? It could also be we're focusing on off-track KPIs or growth type KPIs and innovation. One of the big problems often for many companies, we get to the end of the quarter, we have a lot of ideas, we've learned a lot, and now we really need to discuss these complexities and set a clear direction for the next quarter. It sounds easy, but it's not. From the CEO having to say, what are the few things we're really going to focus on? What are the important ones we're going to drive us forward? Needs thought. It needs you thinking it through. Again, it could be KPIs off track, metrics that need attention at the company or even the team level. You might find that some team level KPIs are dropping off and it needs help of other teams, or it needs a bigger push from the company level overall. Strategy, what's the next quarter of the strategy movement? Team learnings that could be considered for company improvements. Could be, we found this new market, as I mentioned before. The problem, as I said, is here we are, we've got a lot of ideas. Most companies don't struggle for ideas. The problem is if we don't choose the right objectives at the company level, we are running the risk of defocusing the companies, on focusing on too many things and not moving anything forward. What is often done in many companies is basically starting at the C level is developing the C level objectives that we think are good objectives, maybe writing some compacts, some context, and using a method of prioritizing. It could be RICE, ICE, or one of the 12 or 15 other sort of typical standard ways of prioritizing. But the idea is that we actually go through this process of making sure we select the top, in this case, let's say 3. Often 3 isn't a bad number. You know, it could be 5, but it shouldn't be more. Depends a little bit on the size of the company, but really making sure we have a clear focus at the company level is important. Being able to give context of why this is important. And basically, from that, we can set our C-level objectives. It's actually just the same with the teams. The teams can also brainstorm the objectives in the same way. What we've seen is often getting as a team to set the objectives first and then stepping on to the key results, the measurable outcomes, often works very well. Really making sure the team says, right, the company level objective is develop niche X to grow revenue. This is what I believe is the best objective for my team, or best 2 objectives, or you know, whatever it may be. But setting that objective and then working on what does success look, what are the outcomes that we need to drive to make that objective happen, and actually separating out this development process. Now, I say that, but you haven't got long. You know, a lot of companies will start, let's say 1-2 weeks before the end of the quarter. Some will take to 2 weeks afterwards. As you get more proficient with OKRs, a lot of companies will start a week before and finish a week after, or they'll start 2 weeks before and finish right on the month and move straight into good set company and team OKRs already at the first of the month. I don't think that it, in effect, doesn't matter which way you do it or how you do it. You need to leave enough time for people to develop good objectives and good OKRs at the different levels, and then switch to execution. If you take 4, 5, 6 weeks to develop the OKRs, you've lost half the quarter. You'll never execute them. You know, you need to plan. That planning needs to be relatively short. It's just for the next 13 weeks, but it needs to be impactful. That really is the end of the presentation. Just really to summarize, you know, these processes are really what drive. You know, obviously I'm from Weekdone and we sell a software. The software or a spreadsheet or whatever you're using for your OKRs will not work as efficiently or effectively if you don't set these other processes, review processes, meeting processes in place to ensure the OKRs are a success. So just to say, if we don't answer any of your questions in the next section, you can always email us at hello@weekdone.com. You can also visit our Weekdone page and drop messages there. Sorry, our LinkedIn page, Weekdone LinkedIn page. If you want to send me an email, Richard@Weekdone, and you know, Richard-Snaith is my LinkedIn as well. What I'm going to do, I'm going to move to the OKR process questions. Let's just make that a little bit bigger. That's better. Okay, so can we do OKR check-ins bi-weekly or even monthly? I would kind of say bi-weekly, yes. It is okay. I think often the problem is if you do find you get behind, if you've got problems with that executional part, weekly is better. If you do the execution part very well, bi-weekly can work. Monthly, I would say, isn't the best option. Usually the problem is with monthly, if we come back and actually do a check-in monthly, we run the risk of being so far behind. If I'm 4 weeks off or we've missed something, and the team doesn't understand or isn't setting the executional plans to get the OKR move forward, it's too late. We're never going to recover. You can try it. I think you'll learn that doing it weekly means we can do it in 15 minutes. Doing it bi-weekly, it might be 30, a bit longer. Doing it monthly, it ends up a much, much longer review or meeting of everything that's happened and what's worked and what hasn't. I would always push to weekly, but bi-weekly will work as well. Can we do OKR check-ins cross-functionally? Absolutely. We do it, certainly. We actually do both. We do single team ones to focus on their teams, but we also do a every other week check-in with, the other teams, meaning product management, marketing and sales. We tend to work very closely together on driving what we need to within the product. We don't actually do it with all the development teams and everything else, but we do that monthly. When's it recommended to start preparing the OKRs for the next quarter? There are people that will start 2 weeks before. And when I say preparing, I think the 2 weeks before is a serious focus. It's becoming something we need to spend time on. As a leader, I need to make sure we have set a company level objective somewhere before the start of the new quarter, so I give time for the teams to set them. You are going to note down or make comments or think about good ideas for next quarter's OKRs. You could say over the whole quarter, lessons and insights are going to drive you in that direction. But that real prep work is somewhere between 2 weeks before the end of the quarter or 1 week before. What we see is, as you get more and more proficient, that time, that plus minus 2 weeks from the start of the new quarter, can become plus minus 1 week. It just depends how good you get at setting and clearly setting the objectives and the OKRs. Example, how to make OKRs fun for a team. Yeah, and that's a super question. Let me actually just flick back and let's find one of those OKR examples, because I think a lot of it is about what is or how are the OKRs written. I think one of the things that makes OKRs just something we have to do is where the key results are not measurable outcomes. In this example, hey, we want to improve the pro tier features to increase upsell. So maybe we understand that the usage of some of our pro tier features is not good enough. We really need to drive. We know if we get up to 60% usage with the current pro users, anybody else coming in would see a lot more value there. We're not telling anybody how we're going to go from 30 to 60. That's exactly what the projects, the initiatives, the weekly check-ins are going to do. What we action, what we change, what do we improve or grow or innovate on within the product maybe to make that happen. The idea being is this is creating discussion, it's creating thoughts, it's making people think, how would we get there? How would we be successful? And that often is the big difference, that writing good OKRs can make it fun and interesting. Writing bad OKRs can have absolutely the opposite effect and will often really make people struggle. I hope that answered that question. That's a good question though. The mid-quarter review is about you sharing with all the other teams. The check-ins weekly are usually what the team is doing. That's the cadence the team needs. You doing a check-in, you sharing what you've learned, whether it's on your OKRs, what works and what doesn't work, or process elements you've learned or understood. So really, the mid-quarter or monthly review is all about sharing that with everybody else and hearing how others are doing, understanding what have they learned, what's working. Understanding, are we aligned? A lot of times when somebody explains the OKR and what they've done to drive it forward, it connects with people. People understand why we're doing it, and that kind of is super important for this alignment. And it's a way to make sure everybody really reviews it. The leader is accountable for his decisions and his objectives at the company level, and him sharing them and letting everybody know what he did well and what he didn't. The teams, similarly, what they've learned, what is it driving forward for them, is super important. And it doesn't take that long. You know, a lot of times you would say a team can do it in probably between 5 and 10 minutes. You know, if you've got 10 teams, yeah, it's going to take a bit of time. But, you know, once a month or twice a quarter, it's not going to really make a problem there. What if we discover week on week that OKRs haven't moved at all? Do we change our OKRs? It could be. It depends. Did we execute plans to drive them forward? Were they the right plans? Were they the best ideas? Were they executed well? That could be one of the reasons why your KRs or no KRs don't move at all. We work with a lot of companies, and sometimes people aren't using their imagination on setting the plans and really thinking, doing something impactful enough to change a KR or even related close enough to that KR. So that could be one of the reasons, but it could also be that you set some bad KRs. It happens, you know, all of us have done it. And it might be you need to change them. You might have learned something which will drive you to change the KRs. Why are they not moving? Are you hand on heart sure that we've done the right plans to drive them forward? Were those plans executed well? Were they as big and impactful as they needed to be to make it move? Depends, really depends. The mid-quarter should be for cross-function. It should be everybody. The leader should explain what he's learned from his C-level OKRs and the progress it's making at the company level. Often, he will also maybe bring in things like, does he feel it's driving us in the right strategic direction for the ones, or are we improving the KPIs or the KPI of revenue or the growth targets? You know, it's there. The teams are explaining to the other teams what they're working on and how is it going and the insights and learning. So it's totally cross-functional. It's all teams presenting to other teams and leadership to the teams. It's everybody being transparent across the board. Exactly as they, it could be the teams or departments or both. It depends how you've aligned your OKRs, but basically it's all about sharing, and that sharing tends to bring out discussions and thoughts about, you know, I could help them. Maybe I understand this bit part they're struggling with. Maybe I or my team could help somebody, or I understand that maybe what we're working on is not in the same direction as maybe another team's working on and could be hampering it. You know, there's a lot of things you learn when companies communicate at that level. It tends to drive this true alignment. And as I said, you know, for me, one of the things when we've done strong cross-team discussions, I would say we were probably always 80% or better aligned, but now 99 or more. We understand what the different teams' problems are and what they're working on. And I think that really, really helps everybody as a group and thinking about how to move things forward. Is there any other questions from anybody? Super. Well, thanks everybody for attending. As I said before, if there is any questions, I'm now going to have to quickly flick through to the end here. Oh, wrong. Please feel free to email us at hello@weekdone.com. Connect with us on LinkedIn, email me, connect with me on LinkedIn. We are more than happy to answer any questions you have on OKRs. As I said, this will be sent out. It should be sent out by tomorrow with the full recording. Raw recording will be sent directly to everybody that could make it. So thanks everybody, and oh, Carla raised a hand. Was there another question? Ah, Anna's just added another question. End of quarter review be a recap of mid-quarter plus planning for the next. Yeah, it's, you know, it might be the mid-quarter you've learned certain things. By the end of the quarter, you've got those lessons learned and maybe some more lessons learned, or things have developed further. It's to make sure you've really got the whole picture, and you're taking that whole picture into consideration when you develop that next quarter. Developing that next quarter, you've got a lot of inputs. I think it's always complicated because you've got OKRs that have worked and maybe we're good with. There's ones that didn't work and should we carry over, and how we're going to drive the strategy forward, and where, you know, things have changed in the business. You know, maybe C19 in your area is getting or improving, and that's changing the way people are doing business again. It's really, really about making sure we take all this into consideration. We set the best C-level and team-level OKRs to drive us forward, you know, and that process is all about making sure everybody shares what works, what doesn't. And that way we can really think as a company and as teams within the company to drive things in the best possible direction. Cool, good. I'm glad we spotted that last one. Is there anything else from anybody? I'll wait on this page. No. Okay, thanks a lot, everybody. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll share the video shortly. Thank you. Bye.